Let's start with the most heartbreaking events on the list, and slowly work our way towards the stuff of absolute nightmares. Number 5 proposals that ended in death in September of 2019. An American man named Steven Weber traveled with his girlfriend Kanesha Antoine to the Manta Resort off the coast of Tanzania. This resort was famous for its underwater bedroom, with large glass windows looking directly out into the Indian Ocean, and it was there that Steven decided to propose. He grabbed a handwritten waterproof note and dove beneath the surface. Kanesha watched from inside the room as Steven swam to the glass and pressed the note against the window. It read, "I can't hold my breath long enough to tell you everything I love about you, but everything I love about you I love more. Every day will you marry me?" Kanesha filmed the entire moment. She was crying tears of joy. She said yes, but Steven never came back up. He drowned before he ever heard her answer. She would later post the video online with the words, "You never emerged from those waters that took you away from me, and Steven's story is far from the only one." In 2015, a man in Brazil fell to his death from a cliff while setting up a surprise proposal spot. And in another case, a hot air balloon proposal ended in a fatal crash during descent. Love is supposed to be worth dying for, but nobody ever means it. Literally. But if you think that's disturbing, wait until you hear how Valentine's Day actually began. Number 4. The true and bloody origin of Valentine's Day. Most people assume Valentine's Day started as a celebration of love. It didn't. It started with an execution. In the year 269 AD, a Roman priest named Valentine defied Emperor Claudius II, who had banned marriages for young soldiers, believing unmarried men made better warriors. Valentine disagreed and continued performing secret marriages in the shadows of Rome, but he was eventually discovered, arrested, and sentenced to death on February the 14th. He was beaten with clubs and then beheaded. And according to legend, the night before his execution, he wrote one final letter to the jailer's daughter and signed it "From your Valentine." A phrase that over 1700 years later, billions of people still use. Most of them have no idea they are quoting a dead man's last words. But the darkness goes even deeper. Before Valentine's Day existed, the Romans celebrated a festival called Lupercalia, where priests would sacrifice goats and dogs, skin them, cut strips from the hides, dip those strips in the sacrificial blood, and walk through the streets of Rome, slapping women with the bloody animal flesh, believing it would make them more fertile. Young women would actually line up in the streets waiting to be struck. It wouldn't be until 496 AD that Pope Gelasius I replaced Lupercalia with St. Valentine's Day. The roots of this holiday were never about chocolate and roses. They were soaked in something else entirely. Now, if you think that's dark, wait until you hear what happened on February 14th, 1929. Number 3. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre, Chicago, 1929. The height of Prohibition. Two of the most powerful crime bosses in American history, Al Capone and Bugs Moran, were locked in a bloody turf war for control of the city's illegal alcohol empire. And on the morning of February 14th, Capone decided to end it. 4 of his men arrived at a warehouse on North Clark Street, 2 of them dressed as police officers. To anyone watching, it looked like a routine raid. 7 of Moran's men were inside. The fake officers ordered all 7 to face the wall, and they complied, thinking it was just another shakedown. Then the other 2 men walked in carrying Thompson submachine guns. Over 70 rounds were fired at point-blank range. When real police arrived, 1 man was somehow still breathing. Frank Gusenberg had been shot 14 times and was still alive. Officers asked him, "Who did this?" His response was, "Nobody shot me." He died 3 hours later. The intended target, Bugs Moran, had been running late that morning, and when he saw police cars outside the warehouse, he simply turned around and walked away. That decision saved his life. As for Capone, he was on a beach in Florida, 1,000 miles away with the perfect alibi. He was never charged, but that Valentine's morning turned the American public against organized crime forever, and marked the beginning of the end for the age of the gangster. Now, as horrifying as the massacre was, the next entry on this list is far more personal, far more intimate, and far more sinister. Number 2. The Lonely Hearts Killers. In the late 1940s, lonely people searching for love placed personal ads in newspapers called Lonely Hearts ads, and 2 people were about to exploit that desperation in the most horrifying way imaginable. Raymond Fernandez was a charming con man who, after suffering a severe head injury, became obsessed with the occult and began seducing lonely women through the mail, robbing them of everything. But everything changed when one of his targets, a deeply insecure nurse from Florida named Martha Beck, didn't resist him. She fell obsessively in love. And when she discovered what he was really doing, she didn't turn him in, she wanted him. They began working as a team, traveling state to state, draining lonely women's savings, with Martha posing as Raymond's sister. But eventually stealing wasn't enough. Their first confirmed kill was a 66-year-old widow named Janet Fay, who Martha beat with a hammer and strangled before they buried her in cement. But the worst case involved Delphine Downing, a 28-year-old widow and young mother Raymond, shot her in the head while she slept. But that left one problem. Her 2-year-old daughter Raynell was still in the house. They drowned the toddler in the bathtub and buried both bodies in the basement under cement. Neighbors eventually called the police. The bodies were found, and during the trial it was revealed that the pair may have killed as many as 20 people on March 8, 1951. Both were executed by electric chair. Martha Beck's final words were, "My story is a love story, but only those tortured by love can understand what I mean." The Lonely Hearts Killers turned the search for love into a death sentence. But the number one entry on this list is something else entirely. Number 1, the Stardust. It was Valentine's Night 1981 in Dublin, Ireland. A nightclub called the Stardust was hosting its annual Valentine's Disco. Nearly 800 young people packed the venue, most of them teenagers, some as young as 16. At approximately 1:30 in the morning, a fire broke out near the back of the venue. The flames reached the ceiling tiles, which were made from highly flammable material, and the fire ripped across the ceiling at a terrifying speed, raining burning debris onto hundreds of young people below. And then came the nightmare. The emergency exits were locked, chains and padlocks had been placed on the fire doors by management to prevent people from sneaking in without paying windows, had iron bars bolted across them. Doors that were accessible opened inward, creating a deadly crush, as hundreds of panicking teenagers pushed against doors that would not budge. 800 young people trapped inside a burning building with no way out. 48 were killed that night. 2014, severely injured. The youngest victim was 16. Entire friend groups wiped out in a single evening. And in the aftermath, the government tribunal concluded the fire was probable arson, suggesting someone among the dead teenagers may have started it themselves. The families were devastated for 43 years. They fought, they marched, they refused to let their children be forgotten. And in April of 2024, a jury finally returned verdicts of unlawful killing for all 48 victims. The people who were supposed to protect those teenagers had sealed them inside a death trap on the night they went out to celebrate love. So the next time February 14th comes around and you see the hearts and roses and cards that say from your Valentine, remember that this date carries more than just love. It carries the last words of a man beheaded for believing in it, the silence of an ocean that swallowed a proposal, the 70 rounds that echoed through a Chicago warehouse, the lies that hid behind a love letter, and the screams of 800 teenagers behind doors that would never open. Valentine's Day has never been just about love, and now you know why.